Well, good evening and a very warm welcome to the third week of these very remarkable teachings. I was expressing my gratitude on behalf of all of us to Geshe for the wonderful ways in which the Dharma is being articulated as it ultimately must for lay people such as us to be of value as we confront everyday crises. And I think all the more at this time of extreme stress and despair at so many levels, from the corona to the economy, and I think sort of mental health issues are rising. So the data tells us. So thank you very much, Geshe. And in fact, there has been, and I just sent out a little chat message for your feedback. We've had a number of requests to ask us to request Geshe to extend the timings of the session by 15 minutes or half an hour, as much as everybody's convenient. So I have sent out a little message on chat, and please get back to us as to whether you would like to start, depending on Geshe-la's convenience, half an hour early or extend it for half an hour or 15 minutes or whatever later. Then we will collate all this and respond to what works the best for most people. There's no reason for me to stand between the words of the master and our teacher for this evening. So it's over to you, Geshe, with gratitude and a virtual prostration.
Kashidile, just as we did last time, let us do a little bit of reflection on the four immeasurable qualities by reflecting on the meaning of the lines. May all sentient beings meet with happiness, the cause of happiness. This is important because we all want happiness, not just pleasure. We all want happiness. May all sentient beings meet with happiness and the causes of happiness. We all want happiness, but most of us actually don't know the difference between happiness and pleasure. We are all running after pleasure, but not much after real happiness, because happiness has to come from within, not through sensual pursuit. And more importantly, the causes of happiness. Many of us don't even try to identify the causes of happiness. And some of us do get some kind of glimpse of the causes of happiness, but we neither have the time, nor have the interest, nor have the commitment to really pursue and cultivate the causes of happiness. So the problem is, unless you cultivate the causes of happiness, how are you going to get happiness? It's impossible. So it is because of this failure, miserable failure in not being able to cultivate the causes. That's the problem. So therefore, it's important for us not to just say, I want the biggest happiness, the most long-lasting happiness, but you need to seriously sit down, even not just reading the text alone. You can read the holy texts and also use your wonderful human intelligence and think what is really the long-lasting causes for happiness for you and for all other sentient beings. It's important to think, to find that out, and then start practicing as much as possible. That's very important. Second line reads, may all sentient beings be without suffering and the causes of suffering. In a similar situation, nobody wants suffering, even to the extent of bite of a mosquito, we don't want. But again, number one, when we talk about suffering, probably we will identify it with headache or stomach ache and the obvious sufferings. But most of us don't even know the deeper levels of suffering. In Buddhism, we talk about suffering of change. That means uncertainty in life, losing one's relatives and friends, getting deprived of your material affluence. So many things that you lose, which is also suffering. But then there are even more subtler levels of suffering, which is rooted in our own conditioned existence because of the influence of negative emotions and contaminated karma. We have become susceptible. Our body is not made of diamond or stone. It's just made of, very, very fragile flesh, and especially inside. If you look at the internal organs, how fragile they are, we hardly think about these things. So I encourage people not only just read Buddhist text, but also watch a documentary on the makeup of human body, especially how the internal, organs function. You will be amazed, as Nagarjuna says. It is amazing that we are able to go to bed and next morning able to wake up. It's just magic and mystery. So we are so fragile. So that means impermanence. So it is important to reflect on that. That is, then once you reflect on that, this is not to scare you or frighten you unnecessarily. Again, some people don't really want to think about those fragility. They want to, think that I'm okay, you're okay, I'm permanent, you are permanent, and none of us are going to die kind of attitude, which is not going to help us because that is pretension, you see. So therefore, let us face the reality and see the real situation, because if you are able to see the real, nature of the fragility of your body and mind, you will be able to take care of it much more. Just like if you have the beautiful thing which is fragile, you will handle it very carefully. So similarly, if you understand the fragility of your body, even in terms of what you eat, even in terms of, the exercise and many things that you do, you will be very careful. But normally we are not careful because we don't know about those things. We don't know our fragility. We don't have conviction about that fragile nature, which is called impermanence. So it's important to know about that. Now that kind of suffering, these different levels of sufferings, they come from causes and conditions. So again, just as we did with the causes of happiness, here also it is important for us to, precisely locate and look at the causes and conditions of suffering. And if in the true sense of the term, if you do not want suffering, then it is no good just to say, I don't want suffering, It is no good just to close your eye and do some prayer and wish that all sufferings will vanish. It will not happen like that. Scientifically speaking, or based on our own common sense and common experience and Buddhist teachings, it is very obvious unless you remove the causes of suffering. Let me give you one example. For example, in the case of somebody who is very addicted and very fond of eating chocolates, okay? Then if you ask that person, are you eating this chocolate to become fat? That person will never say, no, I'm not eating this to become fat. I'm just enjoying the taste. But the thing is, you're not, intentionally doing it to become fat, but what you're doing is going to make you fat. There's the consequence, unavoidable consequence, right? So therefore, that's the point, similar like that. There are many things that we do. Once you do that, the fruits will be there. So that, just like, for example, we don't eat poison because we have the conviction, we know that poison will kill me. So similarly, if you have a precise understanding and genuine conviction about the so-called three poisons in Buddhism, anger, hatred, and ignorance, we call them three poisons. But we don't hesitate in eating these three poisons because we don't have that conviction as if these are really, poisons. And the destructiveness of these three negative emotions are much more destructive than actual poison, eating poison. If you eat actual poison, it will kill you. Physically, you will die, but it will not do any damage to your mind. But with these negative emotions, it will completely destroy you in this life and for many lives to come. So therefore, it is important to sit down and find out the causes for suffering, conditions for suffering, and make an attempt to lessen it. It's very important. Many practical. There's no need to talk about many, deeper levels if you are not able to understand it. But in your day-to-day life also, there are many things that you can practice. For example, if you are overweight, for example, then you find out what are the causes for your becoming overweight. Check your diet. Very simple. Reduce the amount of the food you eat. Things like that. It is 100% sure that you will be able to reduce your weight, and thereby you will be able to, remove many diseases like diabetes or blood pressure and so many things you can easily remove. And I have first-hand experience myself. I did it and I was able to do it. Within a few months, I was able to reduce like 6-7 kilos very easily without much effort. Just reduce the amount of consumption of your food and then, the food that you take, do the right thing, you can change it, you see. So there are many things you can do, but unfortunately, we don't do. We always think that I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. That tomorrow never comes, right? And then you become overweight, and more than overweight, you might become an obesity, things like that. So it is like intentionally killing oneself. That's why Buddha was saying that you are having all these problems because of your ignorance, your misconceptions of the reality. If you change that misconception, understand the reality, and live your life in accordance with the reality, don't fool yourself. Don't just run after appearances. Appearances are deceptive. These are all he's saying. It makes such a wonderful sense. So what is really needed is, as Rajiv has requested to lengthen the talk, I can easily do that. I can speak for an hour and a half and things like that, no problem. But what I would argue is not just listening to somebody, but doing your homework. I've been persistently saying this to others, and myself also I'm trying a little bit to, practice it. Talking is not that easy, but it's easy, relatively easy. You need to spend a few hours here and there to study the text. Then you may be able to speak it, you may be able to teach. But in terms of practice, we have this habit of postponing. And there is a Buddhist teaching which says, tomorrow and next life, which will come first is not sure. Which means tomorrow tomorrow and next life, which will come first, not sure, means death and tomorrow, which will come first, not sure. You know, we have this tendency to think that, oh, right now I'm only 30, I'm right, only 40, you know, or even in the case of a person who is 80, 90 years old, he has this tendency to think that right now, you know, my age is quite old, but I'm physically very healthy. That's what I'm thinking right now, right? Right? But the distance between death and life is just this breath. If you breathe out and could not breathe in, that is called death, right? You don't have to buy any special, you know, air ticket or things like that, you know. So therefore, what is important is we need to realize that this life that we've obtained is very, very precious. Not in the sense of our ability to enjoy so many things in day-to-day basis, but also our capacity to benefit so many other people, make so many other people happy. The other day I was reading a book on the meaning of success, you know, and I found that success in today's world is measured in terms of how much money you have, you know, how powerful you are, how you know, famous you are, things like that. But in the end of the day, the book says, you know, quoting many great teachers, at the end of the day, success means flourishing, a flourishing life. Success means a person who is really internally happy and balanced, right? So that is really the source of success. So whether you know, think it in terms of your meaning of education or you think it in terms of your success, education and success basically means a happy person, somebody who is always happy and cheerful. Once your mind is happy, you can do miracles. Just through your smile, you can make many other people happy. You know, you don't really have to spend a lot of money. And we all have that first-hand experience. Again, we are not able to constantly practice it, but it is really amazing. And so therefore, teachers like Nagarjuna, they say that if you really want to establish yourself, achieve something, then start helping others, start benefiting others. And it's not that difficult. It is not difficult. For some people, just a smile. For some people, just you know, sitting with them and talking and answering their problems and questions. For some people, just sending 100, 200 or 1,000, 2,000 rupees, you know. For those of us who have a little bit more money, when we have a few thousand rupees, we don't think this is a big deal. But there are many. I have that first-hand experience myself. For some people, just to get 5,000 rupees probably will change their life. I'm not exaggerating it. I have first-hand experience, you see. So the only thing is we are unable to do it. We want to keep everything for oneself, you see. Even when you are on your deathbed, still you are not able to give many of these things, you see. So it's important to really practice and do your bit, and then you will really test the meaning of Dharma. If we just keep on talking, then it's entertaining, but of course better than nothing, but will not have much effect. So therefore, we are reading this very precious text, Bodhisattva Garland of Gems by Atisha. And the last time we read about the selecting of or choosing the four deities, and we discussed about Buddha as one deity, and then Avalokiteshvara as the second deity. So the third deity that is explained here is the green Tara. With regard to green Tara, the text says that green Tara is really a female deity which is without any fault and who is really embodiment of all the good qualities and who is somebody who arose from the pristine wisdom. And she is the one who protect you from the 8 fears. In the Tibetan society, recitation of the 21 Tara prayer is like in the monastery, big monasteries, they recite I don't know how many times in a day. And ordinary also, even ordinary, not so educated people, they all recite this Tara prayer, 21 Taras. So here it says that she is a female deity who will protect you from the 8 fears. The 8 fears are fear of arrogance. See, that means again, if you're arrogant, you should be careful. You should fear these negative emotions. Normally, we are fearful of something that might come from outside, but the real fear is within oneself. So therefore, this green Tara will protect you from the fear of arrogance, and then from the fear of ignorance. I've already discussed a little bit, and then fear of hatred. I mean, all the killings that you see in the world today, all because of hatred, enmity. And then jealousy, the fear of jealousy. Just by being jealous, you're not going to get anything. It will only destroy you. And then the fear of wrong view. That means not understanding the reality as the reality, but misperceiving it. We are so fond of just going after wrong view. The world is unfortunately full of wrong view. Even with this COVID-19, statements that we hear, so many wrong views, and many people unfortunately get unnecessary fear because of the wrong information. And then the fear of stinginess, that was basically what I was talking about. Pandit ka muthi bolte hai, Hindi mein hum log bolte hai Pandit ka muthi. When the Pandit means the scholars, when they don't share their knowledge, and then we call it the tight-fisted scholar, Pandit ka muthi. So stinginess, unless you adopt this way of giving things to others. Last night I was watching TV, and I was watching this many activities that are done by different organizations to help this pandemic, remove this pandemic or lessen this pandemic. So there was one institution which Rajiv and many others know very well, Give India. I mean, these are beautiful titles and they are doing wonderful things, it looks like, you see. So Give India, see. So that means, open your hand, don't be stingy. When you came into this world, you did not come with anything. When you're going to leave this world, you're not going to carry anything. In between, I'm not saying give up everything. When your mind is not ready, you can't do that. But as much as possible, start practicing it. And many of you have heard the story of one great Kadamba master who in the initial stage was also like one of us, very stingy. He could not give anything. And through practice, he realized that I'm a very stingy person, but still he did not have that capacity and practice to give anything to any other. So what he did was he started practicing by taking something in his right hand and giving it to his left hand. Then taking something in the left hand and giving it to the right hand. And then gradually he became a great teacher, great master. So we need to practice, you see, practice. It's very important. Start from small things. And then once you give small things to others, when you see how much benefit these people are getting, you will feel happy, you see. So therefore, the stinginess is really like an iron chain, which is not good for you also. Baggage. Hoarding many things out of stinginess is actually excessive baggage, right? So we don't need any excessive baggage. Not only when we die, but even while we are alive, we don't need this excessive baggage. Especially in places like Dharamsala, when you hoard many things during the monsoon, so many of the things that you hoarded become moldy, So at that time you think, oh, I wish I don't have anything, the house will look so clean and so easy to sweep and clean. But when you have hoarded so many things, you don't know where to put this one, where to put that one, when I'm going to use it, not going to use it, not being able to part it, just headache, unnecessary headache. So start practicing. And then the next fear is fear of attachment. Attachment is, Tsongkhapa says, attachment is really like a drop of oil that falls on a piece of cloth. When the drop of oil falls on a piece of cloth, it's very difficult to separate that oil which is soaked in that cloth. So similarly, when you develop attachment to a person or to a thing, your mind just gets soaked into that, absorbed into that. Day and night, you might, continue to think about that person, continue to think about that, belonging, that wealth. So therefore, you become unstable. Your stability is lost, right? Okay. So you should be fear. And then especially in today's world, much of the problem that we are seeing today, including the pollution, which will come very soon in Delhi. And similarly, the many, the garbages and so many problems in fighting and killing and stealing, all this because of attachment. All this because of attachment. For very, very poor people, it is understandable. They are doing this maybe out of starvation. But there are many who are relatively rich and have almost everything there, but still they want more. They want more, hoarding and buying from the market, and then all the packages throwing around and polluting the water, polluting the, air. Horrible, horrifying, really horrifying. So unless we have some sense of contentment, we're going to get a lot of problems. And the next fear is fear of doubt, especially towards what is true, which we are going to read very soon in this text. Okay, so she is a deity which will protect you from these fears. And then the next deity is the deity which is called Achala, which is something like unmovable, which is really like also a deity which will give you special attainments, and this deity is said to be a deity which is born from the body of the Buddha with his blessing and things like that. And here in this case, few important lines that he said. I mean, this commentary is very long, so, and these are all mostly in verses. So I some of them even I don't know. So I'm just trying to, say a few here and there. So one important point that I want to make here is, which is said in this text also, it says that he asks us, Domtamba, please listen carefully. There are certain spirits which you may have made offerings continuously for a long time, but before you die, when you're at your deathbed or when you're about to die, that spirit, that malevolent, actually a negative spirit, will come and take your life. So there are such evil spirits also, right? So he says, he warns Atisha, you should be careful when you select these deities. It refers to a positive, healthy spirit, not the negative spirit, because there are negative spirits which may have certain, just like among human beings, we have very bad people. So among the spirits, so some are very nasty, some are very good. So if you relate yourself and take refuge or protection from an evil spirit, you might get a lot of problems. And he says that this kind of so-called deva or God, whatever you call it, these are actually more horrible than the ghost. So that's why His Holiness has repeatedly, advised people to against the practice of this controversial spirit called Shugden. Those people who you know, you understand it. But if you don't know, but if you don't want to know, it's okay. But what is important is that in Buddhism, we take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, as we already discussed. That is our ultimate refuge. Then other spirits, even higher spirits, you can always seek their support. But be very careful not to take refuge in malevolent, evil, negative spirits, right? Because if you do that, then from there arises fanaticism, sectarianism, it will become a kind of cult. So we have to be careful. So as a Buddhist practitioner, if you don't know much about many of these Dharma protectors, then it's okay. If you want Dharma protectors, then as is advised here, these 4 Dharma protectors, and in some other texts, there are other protectors also, which is really long-lasting, reliable. Rely on that. If you are there also, if you are unable to do that, I think it's okay. But what is important is that you do your Dharma practice properly. The so-called Dharma protectors, in many cases, some of them are really enlightened beings, very good. They will definitely help you. So if that Dharma protector is a genuine Dharma protector, that male or female Dharma protector will help you even if you don't propitiate them, because it is a commitment that they have made. Just like good people helping any other good person doing many things, they'll come without you having to ask them to help. They will help you. It is their job, their responsibility. Now, if there is a spirit, which if you propitiate, then helps you. If you don't propitiate, then harms you. That means you can practice corruption with that spirit. So how about that? Right? It's really like corruption. So therefore, as I said, the very reason that in Buddhism is a non-theistic religion, don't believe in a creator God. On the one hand, we say that we don't believe in a creator God. Then again, you have all these deities. Not only you have these deities, but if you see these deities as almost the creator of your happiness and peace and success, if you propitiate them, doing on your own practice, then you're completely wrong, right? So therefore, one must have faith in oneself, faith in the Dharma, Buddha Dharma Sangha, practice it. Good Dharma protectors will automatically come. Buddha will automatically help you. So that is the point that really I want to explain here. So in short, there are, like, as I said, countless wrathful male deities. You may not be able to know all of them. And Atisha says, no need to know all of them. If you practice this one wrathful deity, Achala is really like the representative of all the wrathful deities, male deities. Then among the female deities in the wrathful form, Green Tara is like the manifestation of all other wrathful female deities, right? That's important. Okay. So, then there is a discussion between Atisha and Domtomba, where Atisha asks Domtomba, what kind of teaching you want to get from me? And Domtomba says something that is profound, something that is quick for enlightenment, things like that. Then Atisha says, if you really prefer like a path which is quick for enlightenment and things like that, then we have the Tantra, and especially we have the Doha, the Doha by Saraha and things like that. And Atisha says, I have all those lineages, I have all these teachings, and I can give you. So Atisha was actually kind of testing Domtomba and giving him kind of temptation, saying that I have all this quick path to liberation, in the form of Tantra, in the form of Doha and things like that. And then gradually he says that in the case of a great practitioner like you, this tantric teachings are perfect teachings for you. It's okay, it's wonderful. But then you think about the majority of the people, they'll not be able to do this practice, right? Instead of being able to practice the tantric teachings, they would think this is the shortcut, and they would misunderstand tantric teaching by saying tantric teaching is almost like a teaching of having sex with other partners, and tantric teaching is a teaching where you're committed to engage in intoxicant drinks and become a voracious meat eater, things like that. So Atisha says, therefore there's a risk of the ordinary people, unenlightened, whose mind is not trained. There is a risk of going in the wrong way. So therefore it is important that when it comes to, now since you have already chosen the 4 deities, now it is also important to choose the teaching. And then Atisha says the teaching that you should choose is the 3 Pitakas, the Vinaya Pitaka, Sutta Pitaka, and Abhidharma Pitaka. And then he gives a lengthy explanation saying that if you are able to understand, then you will be able to understand all the tantric teachings come into one of these 3 Pitakas. So tantric teaching is there, right? And then also many of the teachings that you practice, even in the sutric, teachings, in a way, they are also very similar to some of the tantric teachings. There is a process of generation stage. There is a process of completion stage and things like that. So then, with this conversation, Domtomba decides to choose these 3 as the teaching preferred, selected teachings. So therefore, we call, in the Kadamba practice, we call it the Kadampas are practitioners of the 4 deities and the 3 dharmas. Kadam la chu hindes, la chu hindi, la hi chu sum, Lajudundi. So 7, the Kadampas have these 7 selections, the 4 deities and 3 teachings, 3 dharmas of the 3 Pitakas. And then there he also gives a warning about the so-called Tantric practitioners and so-called Mahayana practitioners. And he says, you need to be very careful. Unless you have the foundation, you cannot proclaim that you are a great Mahayana practitioner or great Tantric practitioner. And he says, even if you look at some of the, lower vehicle practices, like the 4 virtuous practices of a trainer, which is not in the Mahayana, which is it comes in Mahayana also, but primarily in the lower teachings, where the 4, virtuous practices for a trainer is, if somebody beats you, don't beat back. Somebody hits at you, don't hit back. That's one practice. Somebody scolds you, don't scold back. If somebody finds out your fault, don't find their fault in retaliation. So like that. So he says that, Atisha says, look at these practices. If you're able to do this practice, you're already really doing something magnificent. And not being able to do this, foundational practices, if you proclaim to be a Mahayana and the follower of the great vehicle, and then especially the Tantric, the quickest path to enlightenment, he says you are fooling yourself. You are fooling yourself. Right? So therefore what he is saying is you must have the foundation, and especially for the benefit of the many, you should really follow the most essential fundamental teachings. So therefore, in our life also, we as I said the other day, we will not be able to do too many practices. We should do something that is the crux of the teaching, right? As Shantideva right in the beginning of his Bodhicharya Avtara says that life is short, there are too many things to know, especially in today's modern world, there are too many things to know. And we do not know what is the extent of our life. Therefore, just like the swans extract milk from water, take that is absolutely necessary. Choosing the wonderful thing that in the modern psychology, the wonderful thing that they found through research during the last 20-30 years is that human beings can choose things, right? So what are you going to choose? We can make choices. So it's important to not to make a mistake of what you're choosing. That's why he's talking about choosing these 4 deities, choosing this, the 3 dharma teachings. So similarly, in many of other life's errands and life's practices, we should really see whether it's good for you in the long run, temporarily, long run, whether it's good for others. Not just rush, because everybody is rushing after it, right? And unfortunately, majority of people are ignorant, you see. So if you run after them, then, right? So it is important to use this wonderful human intelligence and choose the right thing. So therefore make a distinction between emotion and thinking. Emotion is really like what is happening right now. Emotion is more or less what is happening to you right now. So your emotion focuses more on the present situation, especially when you have trouble, difficulty. For example, right now we have this difficulty of this pandemic, the COVID. So we are all mostly talking about this because it's related to your emotion, how you feel. But that in the long run, it's not the solution. Thinking is needed. How can we change our life when this pandemic disappears? Unfortunately, again, I know that our memory is short, and maybe for some time we may be nice. Then after that, we'll revert back to the same way of he, who, and forgetting everything, right? So therefore, it is really, really important to come up with a strategy, through the experience of this pandemic. Let us change our life for the better. We had this experience during the Spain flu. We did not change much. So I hope this is not the case with this experience, right? So therefore, thinking is a little bit important. In other words, what I'm saying is you should use your human brain, human intelligence, and do those things which is good for you in the long run. Ordinarily, in economical terms also, we talk about 5-year plan, 10-year plan, and things like that. In Buddhism, we talk about many eons plan. So even if you're unable to make many eons plan, at least plan for the next life, a little bit longer, so that there is a guarantee that you will be happier. So don't just get bogged down with the present happening alone. Of course, you are compelled to focus on the present suffering, present problem, and need to quickly find out the medication or solution for that. That is absolutely necessary. I'm not saying that this is not necessary, but don't just get bogged down with that. In the West, they did a research about the refugees. So they found the refugees have a lot of physical problem of food, of clothing. So they are focused only on the present problem. They are not able to think about the future, the long-term, harmony or peace and things like that. So that's understandable, but that is not the solution, right? So we need to, especially as a human being with this wonderful human intelligence, we need to think for the long-term happiness and peace, not just, quick fix solution for every problem. Okay, so the next chapter, next chapter, the verse says, the discard all doubts, cherish persistent practice, thoroughly relinquish sleep, lethargy, and laziness, and always strive and persevere. So as I said earlier, that since one has chosen these 4 deities now for the long-lasting, purpose, we should also choose the teaching, which is the Tripitakas. Okay. So I briefly explained about that. So let us think about this, the meaning of this. Discard all doubts. Discard all doubts. Especially here, when we talk about doubt, we are not just talking about being skeptical, but we are talking about removing those doubts that you have towards the truth, the cause-effect relationship, right? So if you especially develop this doubt, when we talk about doubt, there are 3 types of doubt. Doubt which is tending towards what is not fact, and then we have what is called as the equilibrium doubt, and then doubt tending towards fact. So in one sense, we need to be, it's important to have a questioning mind, to be skeptical, ask questions before you know it. So we are not talking about that kind of healthy skepticism, healthy doubt. We are talking of, removing those unhealthy doubts, where you think maybe there is a Buddha, maybe there is no Buddha. I think there's no Buddha. That kind of negative doubts. I think there's no future life because I have not seen, none of us have seen it. They are just talking. I don't think this is the only life. Let us enjoy it. That kind of negative doubts. The negative doubt has always been compared to a two-pointed needle. If you try to sew the cloth with a two-pointed needle, how are you going to do that? You're not going to do that. You will not be able to do that. So similarly, when you have this, undecided, especially negative doubt, then it's very harmful. In I think Abhidharma, in the 5th chapter, I think it is explained that when you go for the path to liberation, there are many obstacles. One obstacle is not wishing to go on that path. That's one obstacle. And the second obstacle is you have the wish to go, but you don't know which path you should choose, and you go in the wrong way. That's of course big obstacle. You go in the wrong way. And then the third is the doubt. Maybe this, I don't know, so give up. So therefore, and especially here, what Atisha, what Domdoma is saying is there we have doubt and we don't know many of these profound teachings, the meaning of many of these profound teachings. So it is our task to ask questions and remove all these doubts. While great teachers who like Atisha, who is really like the living Buddha, is here, I want to clear all the doubts. That's what he's saying. This is the time. Because once those qualified teachers are not available, however intelligent you may be, just by reading the book, you may get some superficial idea, but you will not be able to go into the depth. Right? So many of these profound teachings coming from Buddha and so forth is based on their personal experience. And similarly, the lineage that is transmitted from master to master is also based on that experiential teaching and many, many years of rigorous study, right? Having cleared many of the doubts and came to a clear understanding of the meaning of each and every subject that is studied. Teachers are there, you should approach them, ask questions, because if you don't ask questions, you will not get the answer, right? So therefore, give up all those doubt. Understand the meaning of the teaching clearly. And if you want to clear these doubts, then approach a qualified teacher and read these three Pitakas. Or otherwise, read many of these holy scriptures, right? And many of your doubt can be minimized. Because if you really want for long-lasting peace and happiness, that is the only solution. Atisha says that is the only solution, right? Long-lasting, if you want to have a long-lasting, successful career, something like successful career, then it's not just making money. You need money, of course. It's not just becoming famous. It is really removing the negative mental doubts and thereby removing the negative emotions that you will then flourish. But contrarily, if your mind is infested with doubts, it's very difficult to achieve enlightenment. So therefore, you must practice with one-pointed mind and give up, abandon all these doubts. And then having clarified doubts and having understood the meaning, then, as I was saying earlier, then cherish persistent practice. That means then you should practice persistently. Cherish means enjoy doing continuous practice. Just as this morning I was reading a commentary of Bodhisattva Garland by His Holiness, where His Holiness says, just as we have to eat every day, it's not enough that you get the meaning of a particular verse or particular text. It's not enough. It's not like watching a movie or reading a book on war and things like that. If you read a comic or book on war, once you read it, or story, you read it and then got some idea, that's it. You don't have to read it every day. There's nothing to practice, right? But here in this case, all these teachings are for practice, for spiritual nourishment. Just as for the body, we need to eat every day, not only eat every day, but 3-4 times. 3-4 times in a day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, and in between Kit Kat or whatever. We have to eat several times. Once somebody asked me, when you receive these tantric teachings, then the teachers, like His Holiness, will give you a commitment to do the 6-session Guru Yoga practice. So during one of my talks, several years before, somebody asked me, Geshe-la, why we have to do this 6 times a day, or 6 times a night, or at least 3 times in a day, 3 times a night? Why we have to do this? I did not have a proper answer. Then later on, I got some kind of answer. Now, when they ask such questions, I tell them how many times you eat. In terms of your body, you do this 6-session practice, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and many things in between. So more than 6 sessions, 10-session practice you're doing for your body. And for your mind, the other day somebody wrote to me saying that I want to do meditation, but it's very difficult to sit even for 10 minutes. There's the problem, you see. So therefore, the spiritual practices are the food, the sustenance, the nourishment for your mind. And I have been saying that much of the problem that we see in the world today is because of mental starvation, spiritual poverty. The more you nourish and sustain and cultivate and look after your mind and make your mind healthy, not only your mind, your body will also become healthier. It's 100% sure. It is not only said in Buddhist teaching or Tibetan medicine, but it is, I have read recently, because I was asked to give many talks, related to how to maintain, mental health and things like that. So I was reading many other books also. So all of them clearly says that if your mind is happy and healthy, your body will also become healthier. So therefore, cherish persistent practice. Practice it, practice it, practice it, practice it. It's very important. And you have to decide tomorrow. Make a decision, at least to start with 10 minutes in the morning or 10 minutes somewhere in the evening. Decide it. And then gradually you will get habituated with this practice and it will become very easy. There's nothing that does not become easy once you get habituated with it. The seemingly difficult thing is difficult because you're not riding a bicycle. I practiced riding bicycle when I was very young. So when we practice and we are concerned, whether I will be able to ride properly or not, every time you try to ride on the bicycle, you fell down, then you try again, you fell down. And then gradually I never become a very good, cycler because I practiced for a short time and then there was no place for me to ride a bicycle. But I was able to at least clearly see that when you get trained, not only you will not fall from the bicycle, but even when you are driving, whether it's bicycle or motorbike, whatever, even while you are driving, you are talking and looking at your friends, you're able to gain that kind of training. So training is very important. Once you get trained, it becomes very easy. Not only easy, but delightful, right? Now, in order to sustain that continuous practice, what you need to do is you need to give up certain things. Thoroughly relinquish sleep, lethargy, and laziness. These are the obstructions. We are very fond of sleeping, you see. Some people, yes, sleep is again necessary, not only in the night, you need very good night's sleep. Also in the day, probably 10, 15 minutes, nap is probably important. The scientists at least say that. But more than that, if you keep on sleeping, every time you get an opportunity, you keep on sleeping and lying, then your mind gradually becomes stupid. There may be people who are very, very fond of sleeping. If you judge yourself, you'll find, especially sleeping for a long, long time in the day, you'll find when you get up, not only you feel, physically very tired, but the words are also not coming very easily from your mouth because your brain has stopped kind of functioning, you see, right? So therefore, it is important to relinquish sleep and lethargy. Lethargy means when your body becomes heavy, mind becomes heavy, and things like that. And laziness. And always strive and persevere. So I'll explain this a little bit again next time also. I'll continue with that. So we stop here. If anybody has any questions, we have still maybe 10 minutes or so. Yeah.
If you have a question, please go to participants and flag us. Am I right, Sari?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, while we wait, I'm going to take the moderator's privilege of asking Geshe La, a question I have to only very, very partially really understand. And that is in deity yoga and the practice of deity. And the idea that the deity is does not have a independent existence. And so we generate the deity from shunya and then dissolve it into it. So for a lay sort of student practitioner, sometimes that aspect is confusing and difficult to hold on to, because we want to feel the security that the deity is a presence who is an enduring presence who is supporting us and impacting our minds. And so what is this relationship to deities and the different kinds of deities, and sometimes the role of a wrathful deity, which is not what you normally associate with spiritual practice. I mean, you want to meditate on a peaceful deity.
So I think here the problem is not only with the practice of the deity yoga, but problem with our all process of perception of things. It's not only deity, but everything that we come into contact, everything that we experience, everything that we observe, nothing has independent existence. These are all mental imputations, right? So we are simply, taking that reality with the deity yoga practice also. It's not an exceptional practice with the deity yoga. So just like any other existent phenomena, deities also don't have independent existence. Now the key question is, as you are saying, which is absolutely true. That's why all these Buddhist philosophical schools, they have so many debates among them. If none of these have, existence from their own side, then what is the fun of doing all these things, things like that. So the Prasangika, the deity yoga, is done in the tantric system, which is basically related to Chittamatra school or mainly Madhyamika school. So here in this case, the thing is, things exist, but don't exist independently. So we need to make a clear distinction between these two. Things exist, don't exist independently. And this has to be told firmly and strongly, because even though things do not have independent existence, but to our ignorant, bewildered mind, we tend to think, especially with the deity, as you said, we tend to think that this should have independent existence. Otherwise, no charm. Otherwise, how can the deity will protect me? So that is the problem. So the answer to this is, in the Prasangika Madhyamika, they say, even though things don't exist independently, they exist, therefore they can protect you, they can harm you, they can function. It's really like watching watching what is going on in the television screen. The images that you see in the television screen are not the real people, but you are able to listen to them, learn from them. They are still functioning, right? So therefore, and then what we are trying to do, especially in the tantric practice, is one of the fundamental practice in tantra, which is very clearly told by the very word mantra. Mantra, that means protecting the mind. So protecting the mind here means, ordinarily your mind runs berserk, runs unruly, runs towards every object, right? There's no control. Not only your mind runs towards all the object, but you tend to see many things in a negative way. Normally you're fond of highlighting other people's weaknesses and shortcomings, then highlighting their good qualities. That's why we get a lot of problems. I will see all the problems in Rajiv. Rajiv will see all the problems in me. And difficult to see the occasionally when our mood is good, we may be talk, about the good qualities, but otherwise our mind is very fond of highlighting the negativities. So therefore, in Tantra, you are told to protect your mantra, meaning that you should see everything in a pure light, in a pure form. And when you see everything as the mention of a deity or the deity itself, which is perfect, nothing to complain, why should you get angry? Why you should develop attachment to such a deity who is much higher than you, unreachable? So therefore, when you develop that's why when you see everything as pure, perfect, and we don't see the ordinary, the ordinariness with their faults and negative qualities, then there's no reason for us to develop negative emotions like anger, attachment, and so forth. So that is the process. Yeah.
Does anyone else have a question?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, I don't know if I missed this, but I'm sorry, the definition you mentioned, the three dharmas, the three petagraphs, I hadn't heard that before. I'm kind of new.
Sorry, could you step back from the microphone and speak, because it's blurring a little, we can't make out. So, yes.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
The three petagraphs, the three dharmas, I'm new and newish and don't understand what they are.
Okay, if you summarize all the teachings of the Buddhas, they are summarized into what is known as three pitakas, which loosely translated means three set of discourses. So all the teachings of the Buddha can be put into these three kind of basket, three set of discourses. They are categorized into these three set of discourses depending upon their main subject matter. One will be the Vinaya Pitaka, which means the set of discourses on monastic kind of discipline, will talk more about ethics in general, especially the ethics of the monks and nuns. So there is one set of discourse. Then we have the Abhidharma Pitaka, which talks about how to cultivate wisdom. And then the third is the Sutta Pitaka, which talks about meditation, one-pointed meditation. So basically, these three set of discourses, their main subject, although others also talk about it, but this is categorized in terms of these three subject matters: ethics, one-pointed meditation, and wisdom.
Great.
This word Tripitaka is like Sanskrit or Pali word, which basically means three set of discourses. Okay.
Well, thank you, Geshe. This has been, as usual, very illuminating. I've just been scanning the chat, and there seems to be, a divide. So we will get back to you about the timings with some more consultation with the participants. But I think everybody feels strongly that they would like a longer teaching. But we'll just work that out.
So for me, 5:30 to 7.
Great.
Or for me, whichever, it's fine.
Okay. Okay. So tentatively, that's what we'll stay with, but we'll just reconfirm that with all.
We have one more question here.
Yes, of course. If Geshe has the time.
Yeah, I have time.
Okay.
The only thing I have is time.
Okay, the final question.
Yeah.
Please go ahead. Can you hear me? Someone wanted a question?
I can't hear.
Hello.
Yeah.
So my question is regarding the mind-only school, who, from my understanding, is that they don't believe in that something externally exists. So if they don't believe something externally exists, how can they practice the deity, the deity practice and the tantra?
No, you need to understand the meaning of non-existence of the external object. They are not saying that outside the mind there's no table, no chair. They are not saying that. What they are saying is there is no external object which is not a result of the activation of imprints of the mind. So everything that you see, you observe, these are related to the past lives, habituation, imprints, activation of that. So in that way, they are saying there is no external object which is not a result of the activation of the imprints of the mind. In that sense. So there is a deity which is a result of activation of the imprints of the mind, but there is no deity which is not a result of activation of the imprints of the mind. In that sense.
Well, thank you, Geshe-la, once again for your time. And we will be, we look forward to next Friday, and tentatively, let's say at 5:30. And then we will reconfirm this if there are any, it's very inconvenient to a lot of people, because we don't want to lose any member of the Sangha that Geshe-la has helped us create, because of timings that are extremely inconvenient. So some accommodation, of course, we will all need to make. So we will be in touch with you. Thank you very much, everybody, and in particular, Geshe-la, and everybody. Maybe all stay blessed with Geshe-la's blessings, and stay well. Thank you very much. And wherever you are, good day, good night, good morning, good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.